Why this wins, in a twist no one expected. The internet is buzzing again as social media turns its attention to an unlikely voice. Usha Vance, the wife of Senator JD Vance. While the Erika Kirk rumors have already stirred controversy across conservative circles and online commentary spaces, the conversation took a surprising turn when fans began pointing to Usha's recent remarks about honesty, integrity, and choosing truth even when it's uncomfortable. Though she never mentioned names directly, many online voices interpreted her message as a subtle response to the Erika Kirk chatter dominating headlines and TikTok feeds. And let's be honest, when someone as private and composed as Usha Vance speaks, people listen. Suddenly, timelines exploded, fan reactions poured in, and commentators rushed to break down every word. Was Usha addressing the noise surrounding Erika? Was it coincidence? Or was this a quiet but powerful statement about values in the spotlight? Whatever the truth, viewers are shocked and the conversation has officially changed. JD Vance isn't just a senator, he's a symbol of modern American conservatism. The author of Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir that turned him into a household name. Vance rose from small-town roots to political prominence by talking about faith, family, and the struggles of working-class America. His rise to fame wasn't built on flash, but on grit, and his reputation as a grounded, values-driven figure quickly made him one of the most influential conservative voices of his generation. By his side is his wife, Usha Vance, a woman who couldn't be more different from the political chaos surrounding her husband's world. Usha is everything people imagine when they think of quiet strength, Ivy League educated, a respected attorney, and deeply private. She's rarely seen in gossip columns or interviews, choosing instead to focus on her family and career. Her calm, graceful presence has long balanced JD's fiery political energy. For years, she's been admired for staying above the noise, a steady anchor in a world full of headlines and drama. That's exactly why her recent comments have everyone talking. Usha has always been known for composure and class. She doesn't rant, she doesn't clap back, and she certainly doesn't join social media fights. So when a woman like that decides to speak, even subtly, people pay attention. Her quiet dignity makes her words hit even harder, especially in a media storm as loud as the Erika Kirk controversy. It's the contrast that shocks people the most. Usha, the poised and private attorney, stepping into a public conversation swirling with gossip and speculation. And the way she did it, calm, deliberate, and precise, has left the internet wondering if her message was simply about morality, or about someone specific. For months now, social media timelines have been buzzing with talk about Erika Kirk, not because of a new project or appearance, but because of the swirl of rumors surrounding her name. It started quietly, a few vague posts, anonymous gossip accounts hinting at contradictions between the picture-perfect Christian influencer image and alleged behind-the-scenes drama. Then podcasts, commentary channels, and Twitter threads began amplifying it, turning speculation into a full-blown viral narrative. No solid evidence ever surfaced. But the internet rarely waits for proof. Every tiny clip or out of context comment became fuel for the fire. At the center of it all was a simple question that no one could answer. What's true and what's just social media storytelling? TikTok detectives broke down Erika's posts, timing, and body language. YouTubers debated her motives. Faith-based communities argued over whether she was being unfairly targeted. The gossip machine grew louder with each new upload. Then, as if the story couldn't get messier, public figures from outside the usual conservative media bubble began referencing the situation. Joe Rogan's podcast mentioned being the loudest example. Suddenly, a niche online rumor turned into mainstream conversation. People who had never heard of Erika Kirk were now watching videos titled "The Truth About the Kirk Controversy." Every platform had its version of the story, and every version contradicted the last. Through all of this, Erika remained silent. No official statement, no interviews, just carefully curated posts that fans tried to decode, like clues. That silence became its own headline. Some interpreted it as strength, others as avoidance. Either way, the lack of answers kept the narrative alive. By the time Usha Vance's comments appeared, measured, and hinting at integrity over image, audiences were primed. Her words dropped into a conversation already electric with emotion, instantly reframing the gossip as something deeper, a debate about honesty, public virtue, and the price of living your life in the spotlight. It happened quietly, not through a press release, not on camera, but through words that carried more weight than any headline. Usha Vance, the famously private wife of Senator JD Vance, broke her silence in a way that only she could, with calm precision, measured tone, and emotional depth that cut through the chaos surrounding the Erika Kirk rumors. The moment her remarks surfaced online, the internet stopped scrolling. People who had never heard Usha's voice before were now replaying her words, analyzing every pause, every phrase. It wasn't a rant, it wasn't a takedown, it was a statement that felt both personal and universal. According to commentary, channels and social media discussions, Usha made her remarks during a recent interview where she spoke about truth, integrity, and the responsibility of public figures to live the values they promote. She didn't name anyone directly, and she didn't have to. The timing was everything. Her words landed right when online speculation about Erika Kirk's image, faith, and authenticity had reached a boiling point. The subtext was obvious to anyone paying attention. When Usha said, "People confuse image with honesty, but real faith starts when the cameras are off," the internet exploded. Clips of that quote spread across TikTok and X like wildfire, each captioned with variations of, "Is she talking about Erika Kirk?" What made Usha's message hit harder than any gossip blogger's post was her credibility. She's not an influencer chasing attention. She's a respected attorney and a senator's wife, known for her intellect and composure. She doesn't jump into drama. She speaks only when it matters. That's why her decision to comment, even indirectly, shocked everyone. To her followers, it was a refreshing moment of authenticity. To others, it felt like a quiet rebuke to the glossy world of influencer morality. She didn't call names, yet somehow, everyone knew exactly who she was referring to. Within hours, Usha's statement had been clipped, captioned, and shared by major commentary accounts. Conservative bloggers praised her class and courage, calling her the voice of reason in a culture addicted to performance. On the other hand, some critics accused her of fueling the controversy by speaking in riddles instead of remaining silent. But that's exactly what made it viral. Her words were layered, powerful, and open to interpretation. They left room for debate, and that's what the internet feeds on. Suddenly, a woman who had always avoided the spotlight had become the center of one, not because of scandal, but because of truth. Usha Vance didn't need to shout to be heard. Her quiet firmness did all the talking. And in that moment, the conversation surrounding Erika Kirk shifted completely. It was no longer just about rumors or speculation. It had become a larger conversation about authenticity, virtue, and what it really means to live by the values you preach. When Usha Vance's words finally circulated online, it wasn't a fiery statement or a headline-grabbing outburst. It was calm, deliberate, and razor-sharp. The power lay in what she said, and perhaps even more, how she said it. In her interview, clip now reposted thousands of times across TikTok X and Instagram Reels, Usha reflected on what she called the performance trap in modern public life. She said softly, "It's easy to build an image that looks holy, but the harder work is being honest when no one's watching." Viewers instantly froze on that line. The timing, the phrasing, the tone, it all sounded like a subtle response to the swirl of conversation around Erika Kirk. She continued, "Integrity isn't what you post, it's what you protect when you could get away with a lie." To her fans, that was classic Usha Vance, disciplined, thoughtful, grounded. But to the online rumor mill, it was a mic drop moment. Comment sections exploded with speculation. Some commenters insisted she was just making a broader point about faith and leadership. Others claimed she was clearly calling out the influencer culture that thrives on curated perfection. Screenshots of her quotes began circulating with captions like, "Usha Vance just ended fake holiness culture," and she said what everyone else was too polite to say. What made her remarks land differently from the usual online drama was that Usha didn't sound angry. She sounded disappointed. There was no venom, no gossip bait tone, just quiet authority. And that tone gave her message a weight that gossip rarely carries. Influencer critics on YouTube picked it apart in long reaction videos, describing her tone as surgical, measured words that sliced right to the heart of the issue without ever naming names. Political commentators called it a masterclass in moral communication. Even mainstream outlets started quoting her lines under headlines, like "Usha Vance on authenticity in the age of performance." Meanwhile, the online debate only intensified. Supporters flooded her pages with comments like, "Thank you for being real in a fake world," while skeptics argued she was capitalizing on the controversy to make a subtle power move within conservative circles. But regardless of which side people took, one thing was undeniable: Usha Vance's few carefully chosen sentences had changed the entire tone of the Erika Kirk conversation. What had started as gossip was now a conversation about truth, virtue, and the pressure of living up to a public image in just a handful of sentences. Usha Vance managed to do what no viral scandal or online rant could. She made people stop, think, and question what authenticity really looks like, and that quiet power is what made her words impossible to ignore. The internet absolutely erupted after Usha Vance's words went live. Within hours, clips from her interview had been shared across every platform imaginable: TikTok edits, YouTube reaction videos, Twitter threads, Instagram reels with dramatic music overlays. It was everywhere. For a woman known for staying completely out of the limelight, Usha suddenly became the face of the day's most talked about conversation. Fans were stunned, not just by what she said, but by the fact that she said anything at all. In conservative media circles, where silence is often seen as sophistication, Usha's calm but clear remarks felt almost revolutionary. On social media, the responses split into two camps. Supporters flooded the comments with admiration, calling her the embodiment of grace under pressure and the truth-teller no one expected. Some called her words a breath of fresh air, praising how she managed to address moral hypocrisy without resorting to gossip or aggression. One viral comment read, "She didn't need to drag anyone, her wisdom did the work." Others said Usha had just redefined what it means to be a woman of influence, not loud, not flashy, but quietly unshakable. But not everyone was impressed. Critics accused her of fanning the flames of gossip while pretending to rise above it. They argued that by speaking at the height of the Erika Kirk chatter, she must have known her comments would be interpreted as shade. On X, debates raged for days, some users applauding her subtlety, others calling it strategic deflection. Memes even started appearing, showing screenshots of her quote next to exaggerated reaction faces with captions like "When Usha drops truth bombs" without naming names. The discussion spilled into podcasts and talk shows. Commentators debated whether Usha's words were an act of moral courage or quiet calculation. Some saw her as a new kind of figure in conservative circles, someone blending intellect with moral authority, reshaping the conversation about how women in politics and faith-based communities use their voice. Others simply viewed it as another viral moment, proof of how quickly a few calm words can turn into an online firestorm. Still, amid all the noise, there was one clear theme: respect. Even people who disagreed with her couldn't deny the power of her delivery. In an era of shouting matches and scandal bait, Usha Vance had done something rare. She'd started a national debate with composure, intellect, and authenticity. And in doing so, she turned herself from a quiet observer into an unexpected symbol of integrity in a world drowning in performance. It didn't take long for the media to sink its teeth into Usha Vance's words. What began as a few clips circulating online turned into a full-scale media event. Overnight, gossip blogs, political talk shows, and mainstream entertainment outlets all ran their own takes on the Usha Vance statement. Headlines competed for clicks. Usha Vance breaks her silence. The quiet rebuke heard round the right. Did JD Vance's wife just subtweet Erika Kirk? And suddenly, a woman who had never courted fame was front-page news. Every outlet framed the story differently. Conservative commentators praised Usha as a voice of moral clarity, saying she'd finally brought decency back to the conversation. Liberal pundits spun it as a fascinating peek into the internal tension between faith and image politics. And entertainment news sites, always hungry for a headline, focused on the drama, the timing, the speculation, the whispers of who she really meant. Even lifestyle magazines joined the frenzy, calling her the unintentional icon of quiet strength. On YouTube, commentary creators released hour-long breakdowns of the clip, slowing it down, zooming in on her facial expressions, dissecting her tone like a courtroom exhibit. Some creators used it to talk about media ethics, others about faith-based branding, and still others about the performative side of modern morality. The same handful of sentences had been turned into hours of content, millions of views, and a whole new news cycle. Behind the scenes, editors and producers allegedly scrambled to secure interviews with Usha Vance or anyone close to her, but none came. She offered no follow-up comments, which only made the coverage more intense. "The silence after the statement is the story," one columnist wrote. By saying so little and then saying nothing more, Usha managed to outmaneuver a media culture built on endless soundbites. By the end of the week, what had started as a quiet moral reflection had turned into a national conversation about authenticity, virtue signaling, and the performance of faith. Every network, from political panels to celebrity gossip podcasts, had weighed in. And once again, Erika Kirk's name was trending beside Usha's, proving that in the digital age, one calm voice can ignite 1,000 headlines. While the headlines screamed and social media threads argued, quieter conversations were reportedly unfolding behind closed doors. People close to Washington media circles and conservative influencer networks began whispering that Usha Vance's words had caused real tension in private chats and group texts, according to speculations circulating on online forums and commentary shows. Several influencers who had previously aligned with Erika Kirk were suddenly reevaluating their public stance. Some described the mood as cautious. No one wanted to appear disloyal, yet everyone could sense that Usha's calm, deliberate tone had shifted the moral atmosphere. Commentary pages claimed that within certain conservative circles, staffers and media strategists were quietly debating whether to address Usha's comments directly or let the news cycle move on. A few alleged insiders suggested that PR teams drafted response statements that were never released, while others believed the smartest move was silence. Either way, the energy behind the scenes was described as uneasy, the kind of restrained panic that happens when a simple remark from a credible figure throws months of careful image building into question. Political columnists speculated that Usha's remarks may have privately impressed some of JD Vance's Senate colleagues, who saw her as articulating what many felt but would never say out loud, that moral credibility matters more than media polish. Others worried that any hint of moral commentary might be seen as fueling divisions inside the conservative movement. But despite the uncertainty, one thing seemed clear. Her short reflection had become a moral benchmark. Public figures were suddenly measuring their own statements against the quiet authority she projected behind the curtain of trending hashtags and news panels. The story had taken on a different texture, less about gossip and more about influence, respect, and the power of sincerity in a world addicted to noise. Whether those insider reactions were factual or just part of the online rumor echo chamber, the perception was enough to make waves. And perception, in the digital age, often is reality. By the time the storm around Usha Vance's words settled into the news cycle, the conversation had clearly shifted from gossip to reflection. What began as a debate about one influencer had grown into a much broader question. How do women of faith navigate the impossible balance between grace, truth, and public image? In the spotlight of politics and social media, women like Usha and Erika aren't just people, they're symbols. They're expected to represent purity, intellect, strength, and humility all at once. And the moment they deviate from that image, the internet reacts with surgical precision. Usha Vance's remarks landed right at that intersection. Whether or not they were meant as commentary on anyone specific, they reminded the public that authenticity doesn't need to shout. In an environment where online holiness can look more like branding than belief, her quiet insistence that integrity begins off-camera resonated deeply. Fans saw in her a new archetype of influence, one where calm honesty speaks louder than curated perfection. The reaction also exposed a painful double standard. Men in politics are often forgiven for moral missteps. Women, meanwhile, are dissected for tone, word choice, even facial expression. The scrutiny on Usha proved that sincerity from a woman in power still feels revolutionary. Her composure turned into a mirror, forcing viewers to ask whether society truly supports women who speak thoughtfully, or if it still expects them to stay silent until chaos passes. Faith circles joined the discussion, too. Commentators pointed out that the saga revealed how blurred the line has become between devotion and performance. When belief becomes content, every gesture risks feeling transactional. Usha's few sentences reminded everyone that real conviction isn't measured in followers, but in consistency. So while the internet argued about motives, something deeper was happening underneath. People were re-evaluating what moral authority actually looks like. Usha Vance didn't seize that role, it was handed to her by a culture starving for authenticity. And in that moment, she became more than a senator's wife. She became a case study in how truth, humility, and restraint can cut through the noise of digital celebrity. In the end, what started as whispers of rumor and speculation transformed into something much larger, a cultural moment about honesty, authenticity, and the price of influence. Usha Vance's few measured sentences set off a chain reaction that no one saw coming. While Erika Kirk remained silent and Turning Point USA avoided the spotlight, Usha's calm voice became the pivot point for an entire conversation about faith, image, and credibility. She didn't need a press conference, a tweet, or a viral meltdown, just one moment of truth delivered with poise. And that, ironically, is what gave her more power than any scandal ever could. The aftermath has been layered. Erika Kirk's followers continue to wait for clarity, while conservative commentators and media outlets still debate what Usha's remarks really meant. Yet, somewhere between all the analysis and noise, A deeper truth has emerged, that moral leadership doesn't come from loudness. It comes from alignment between what you say and who you are. Usha Vance reminded people that grace and integrity can still exist in the loudest of spaces, and that real influence doesn't need headlines, it creates them naturally. For many, this moment has become a kind of digital parable. A lesson about what happens when the pursuit of image overtakes the practice of truth. It exposed how fragile public virtue can be, and how hungry people are for something real, a voice that doesn't sell perfection, but embodies sincerity. And in that sense, Usha's quiet stand became more than commentary. It became a mirror reflecting the modern obsession with performance over principle. As the dust finally begins to settle, one thing is undeniable: this story will be remembered not for who was accused or defended, but for who had the courage to speak with grace when the world was shouting for chaos. Sometimes the loudest message isn't a scandal, it's composure. So what do you think? Did Usha Vance say what needed to be said, or did her words only stir the fire even more? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories, deep dives, and viral moments where truth and influence collide. Because this conversation, it's far from over, and you'll want to be here when the next chapter drops.